Hey again everyone, and welcome back to the channel for the next installment in our new figure showcase series, where we take a look at the newest figure I'm adding into the collection. And I am extremely excited for today's episode as I take a look at the long-awaited Batman figure by Hot Toys based on the character's relaunch in Matt Reeves' 2022 film. Now, like with most versions of Batman, I do think there was a little controversy when Robert Pattinson was cast in the title role, especially coming off Christian Bale's awesome take on the character and also Ben Affleck's amazing performance. Although again, these takes weren't without their own drama, be it casting itself or even takes on the character, like Batfleck actually killing some baddies. But basically two great recent cinematic takes on Batman. So Pattinson jumping in was interesting. Obviously everyone still remembers him from the Twilight movies, but he has built up a pedigree of really well performed and well received movies, including a turn in Christopher Nolan's Tenet. And also director Matt Reeves has done some incredible movies, so it was an interesting take, and I think we were all blown away by the first trailer. And for me, the movie ended up being incredible, really leaning more heavily on the detective and film noir aspects of the character and giving us a much more insane take on the Riddler, moving far from the Jim Carrey version we saw previously in Batman Forever. So this is supposed to be a year 2 version of Batman, with some experience under his belt, but still far from becoming the powerhouse and established vigilante we know. It was a great story to me and a great introduction to their versions of Riddler, Penguin, Catwoman, Jim Gordon, and even a small tease of the Joker. So I'm really looking forward to the sequel, which unfortunately has been delayed to 2026. So it goes without saying that I loved the movie and was extremely excited when Hot Toys announced this figure. Now, Hot Toys did a few versions of this, including a basic release, which was just a figure, and then they had a super deluxe version that included the bat signal, which was a huge added piece. I personally ended up going middle of the road and picked up the deluxe version, which included the figure, a few extra accessories like the flight suit and the diorama base. And you can tell here, this actually does include a ton of items. We'll get into the base later in the review because it's actually a pretty cool modular design that allows you to get a bunch of different configurations. You get an additional cape, the flight suit, again, a slew of accessories that can be placed on the utility belt, the iconic grappling gun and associated accessories, and much more. And what's not shown here is a backdrop similar to what we got with some of the Loki figures, which I'll showcase in more detail later. But this does feel like a deluxe version, so this might be a slightly longer video as a result. But let's jump into things, and we'll start with the hands as we normally do, and you're getting a number of gloved alternates. Figure comes with relaxed hands already equipped, and here Hot Toys is giving you a few extras including standard fists, gripping hands for accessories, special hands specifically designed for the grappling gun, as well as a splayed out hand for posing. So a decent showing. Now what's hopefully coming across is the detail work that went into these, because while they're just gloved hands, they aren't simple. Gloves actually have a ton of detail on them, from textured fabric elements at the joints that are nicely recreated to the heavy armored knuckles, and the left and right hands aren't actually identical because the left hand includes an additional detail on the top of the hand. Not sure I remember what that's for, but it's there and nicely recreated. And something I hadn't noticed in the movie, but I'm noticing in the figure, the fingertips on the gloves actually have a silver element, almost like a small spike, so very nicely done here by Hot Toys. Next up, you get an empty cowl, a neck sleeve, and some swappable faceplates. Now I'll show the faceplates on the figure itself, but I wanted to take a quick look here. The cowl itself is incredibly recreated. In the movie, the exterior covering is more leather-like with some visible joints and stitching, and also the forehead portion and sides have very distinctive nicks and imperfections, giving you a clear indication that he's seen some action. Now the faceplates have varying grimacing looks with exposed teeth that are nicely done, and they're very simple to swap out, so nice overall. And then you also get the collar that you can use with the unmasked sculpt to create that screen accurate look. Next up, you get the sticky gun along with the round for it, and a cap that honestly I don't see in the description and I don't know exactly where to place, which is a bit bizarre. So here's an interesting thing about this accessory. It is exclusive to the Deluxe, which is a little bizarre when you consider that the figure comes pre-equipped with a drop-down leg holster to hold it. So if you just got the basic release, you get a holster with no gun. Not sure what the Hot Toys thought process was there, but it's interesting nevertheless. As far as the gun, looks cool with a nice unique design and silver detailing. The bullet too has some matte gray finishes and again some fine detailing work that looks good, and on the flip side you see the open slot in the gun for the canister to be loaded into, so great piece overall. Next you get the grappling hook accessory, which is a staple for pretty much every Batman. So for this suit, it's pretty interesting because the grappling gun is actually built into the gauntlets, so Batman can deploy them from either hand and fire the hook. So these are easily swapped out just by using pressure to pull off the piece and swap between the deployed and stored versions. Detail work is great, paint apps are nice, showing some subtle nicks and weathering, and he does come with two specific hands, like I mentioned, that are specific to hold these pieces. Now, you also get two versions of the hook, one which is in the process of deploying on the end of a line, and the other one that just has the hook to allow you to recreate a pre-firing look. Silver is nice, and the ends of the hook insert nicely into the grappling gun, and the deployed version has a nice rigid bar pre-attached, so good work again here. Next, you get a bunch of smaller accessories for the figure to hold, or that can even be stored on the utility belt. First ones are the flares. You have a collapsed one and a deployed version, and interestingly enough, they each have a slot on the belt for storage. I have to go back and watch the movie because I feel like the elongated version is the one he pops open at the end of the movie, so not sure he would store it in the belt, but correct me if I'm wrong, because again, I haven't watched the movie in a while. And I would have liked to have seen some kind of a flame effect thrown in here. Then you do get two additional tools, and I think they might be the adrenaline boosters that he uses. You get two different versions of the Batarang for him to hold, one that's just fully elongated and one that's bent. Both look great, both are die cast, which is another great touch, and I like that. And like the one that comes on the figure pre-installed, these all have the nicks and scratches and weathering, so it's a great accessory. And final one here are the handcuffs, which I don't actually see a slot for on the belt unless I'm blind, but they're really nice with that solid center design that allows you to fold the cuffs in half, and these are functional, opening and bending with a nice textured pattern on them, as well as some screws visible on the surface, so more solid work. And next accessory is the card that the Riddler leaves for him at the crime scene after he's killed the Gotham City mayor. It's a paper product, so nothing fancy here, but the writing is clear with the nice envelope made out of a thicker paper and the distinctive "To the Batman" written on it. And then you get the very memorable card with the nice cover and the message inside, including the glyphs. So another very detailed piece that recreates something memorable from the movie. Now, you do also get a second cape included, and the key difference here is that it is a bit shorter than the stock one that comes on the figure. Not by much, but you can also see the rounded edge at the base, which differs from the base cape that has the more recognizable jagged edge. Both are made out of the same material, which is almost like a vinyl type, and both are wired, and they both have that dirt and discoloration at the base that works well. Swapping is easy too, with the cape going over the neck connector and then attaching to Velcro that's under the removable chest piece, so very easy. And this cape is definitely meant to be used more with the bike, which I'll confess I don't own. Now, next up is the base, and that's part of what makes this a deluxe release. So you get 3 components, or actually 5 with the rails, but once assembled you get 3 components that can be used in a variety of configurations. So first, you get the standard square base that has a printed element on top and the Batman nameplate on the front. That nameplate is detachable to let you get the different bases put together, and if you don't want to use the diorama, you can always use this and just swap out the top plates and create different looks. The next component is a set of steps with the rails attached on either side and some red lights at each step, and these do light up, so we'll see that shortly, but good detailing and weathering on this, and I like the slight rust on the metallic rails. And at the back you do have a larger piece that we'll also look at. You also have the lights. All of these don't work and they're not functional, and you have these 2 slots there which allow you to basically connect the modules at different elevations to create the various looks. And now you're also looking at the assembled version, showing the larger piece connected to the steps, right, with the USB lit up lights that are nice red. Switch is hidden on the side, but the cable is visible, so it's an interesting approach. And I do wish that they had figured out a way to have the rear lights on the bigger piece turn on as well. But it works, and they look nice, and they're bright. And you can even see how bright the lights are when I turn everything off, and they really pop. They really have a nice distinctive glow to them that I think will look great with this version of the Batman figure. Now, when you turn the piece around, you get a bit of an exterior building detail, like a roof cornice element with an ornate design that has all that pitting and weathering stone look, and you can even see the rail in the back, which again lets you create some display options, almost like that traditional Batman standing on a gargoyle, or if you're using the flight suit, you can show him doing this way, about to jump. But it's really done well and detailed nicely. Now, the next configuration of the base, beyond the one we've been looking at, basically has the stairs up high, so you almost walk directly onto the cornice piece, and then you slide the standard square base underneath, creating a pretty compact look overall, but giving the overall diorama a few added details. And then the next look basically recreates a longer landing, and what you do is you sit the rectangular piece on the two elements of the diorama base, so nothing gets physically attached or slotted in, just a passive connection resting on top of each other. And it does create the widest of display modes. It looks good too, but it will lead up slightly more real estate, and it might also give you more options if you want the figure to stand in a more splayed out way. And as you can see, both the standard stand and the steps have a slot for your crotch grabber. And final accessory is the lenticular backdrop that creates that nice flame effect from the end of the car chase scene. Look, it's pretty nice, and it's something Hot Toys has used before with some of the Loki figures, for example, and it makes for an interesting display. But something that takes me out of the whole thing personally is having the name of the movie so prominently displayed on top. It hurts the realism for me a bit, so it's a good piece, but probably something I won't be using. Alright, so that was a lot to get through, but let's jump right into the sculpt, and we'll start with the masked one, and this thing's impressive. Faceplates are all swappable, and we'll look at each version too, but this one is just your standard closed mouth stoic look. There's a ton of detail on the skin and the texture, and a great recreation of the subtle 5 o'clock shadow. And again, and I'll reiterate this with the unmasked sculpts, the light is kind of causing some of the detail to be lost, but there is a lot of detailing on the plates, which is awesome. But the big standout is the cowl again. It looks like leather, like it does in the movie, with all the panels stitched together and a great texture on the surface. And more importantly, like with the loose one, you can see the wear and tear on the joints, and on the leather itself you see all the nicks, the scratches on the forehead, the nose, the sides, and then the eyes under the cowl with the black makeup just really look impressive. So really a stunning recreation here. Next faceplate has the same detail from the closed mouth, with the lips just slightly parted and the teeth revealed underneath. I like the subtleness of this. Gives the figure a feeling of some emotion, almost like concern or just focus, but at the same time it's a controlled look, right? And again, detail work just continues to be top notch. And then the final faceplate is the fully open grimace look or yelling look with the clenched teeth. Same detail on the skin paint apps. Again, phenomenal, but the teeth are really the standout here, and that gridded look just feels very appropriate for a more aggressive pose with the figure. And I think it would lend itself to using the rolling eye systems to create something really awesome. But great job, and like I mentioned before, swapping of these plates extremely easy. So now let's jump to the unmasked sculpt. So first thing I have to say, there's definitely been some softening from the prototype to this one, as we would expect. The proto had a lot of incredible texturing and detailing that has been lost, but also the light I have on this is definitely washing out some of the detail work. For example, the forehead actually has wrinkles on it, and the paint shows some nice freckling with an amazing likeness to Robert Pattinson. So interesting mechanism here too, because there is a swappable front hairpiece. Everything is held together by magnets. I will say, this one that we're looking at with the slicker hair, it looks okay, but I'm not personally super crazy about it. I just don't think it looks as good as it could, and there's just something a little off of it about it. Maybe something to do with the way the hair is parted. Again, just not my favorite. However, I do think once you swap that front portion of the hair piece for the disheveled piece, those concerns go out the window. That piece just adds something extra to the sculpt, feeling more like he just removed the cowl and he's been fighting in it for some time. Just visually, I think it looks better, and the way Hot Toys detailed the strands of hair, just really impressive. So of the two, this is my favorite look, although I can't display Batman without the cowl. So this is a piece I'll be looking to use with the motorcycle clothing sets that are coming out by multiple companies. But without a doubt, the disheveled look version looks incredible. So now let's get into the figure. And look, it was a long wait, but I'm extremely happy with the look here. First of all, it's such an interesting batsuit in its own right. Coming off the previous versions, it feels unique and different, which isn't always easy to do, but it looks awesome. And I'm not an expert on the suit by any means, but it looks pretty impressive to me. I don't mind the cape for starters, although you do have to play with it a little bit to get it to sit right. But besides that chest armor with the magnetic battering on it, that makes it easy to swap, right? It also looks great. I think the other thing that I hadn't noticed with the suit is that there are nice subtle hints of orange and yellow, and it's something that gives the figure and the suit just a slight visual pop. But again, chest is pretty impressive. It's an independent panel that comes off, and then the rest of the suit is a nice gray with a lot of sewn in pads for protection that looks great. There's a ton of detail work from the stitching to the sides of the legs where you have this open detail work, lattice kind of looking down, with some cords just holding things together, all dying into the boots that again are a great design with the silver eyelets. There's just a lot of great work that went into this. Belt 2 has a very distinctive police belt feel to it with the different pouches on it, and the gauntlets also have an amazing amount of detail, and the gauntlet blades almost look like they're created by essentially strap elements that hang off, which is a great touch. Now, also with the Deluxe, you do get this alternate look for the figure, which is the flight suit from the scene where Batman escapes from the police station. So it's again pretty easy to accommodate. You just have to remove the cape and put this on the figure. And since it's pretty loose, there really isn't too much of an issue getting this onto the suit and having it look good. And it does look nice, which I wasn't expecting, with the nice yellow tags and all the zipper details. And on the cornice, it makes for an awesome display. But again, the question is, am I really going to hide the beauty of the suit? No, I'm not. So it's a nice detail to have, a nice element to have, but not a piece I'll be using. So overall thoughts, and I know this has been a long review, but there were a ton of things to kind of cover. But overall, I think it's a stunning figure. From the sculpts to the design of the suit and even to the diorama base, it's just amazing. For me, it was definitely worth the wait, and I'm very excited to finally have him in hand. Posability is awesome too, with the suit not being really restrictive, and just visually it's a figure that pops, and it just continues what has been an awesome year of releases from Hot Toys. So I'm very impressed. The one issue I forgot to mention, and I do want to touch on, is the mask sculpt's attachment to the neck. It's done via magnets, similar to the Venom and Carnage, but because of the faceplates and the eye system, the magnet is smaller, only being limited to half of the surface area. So it does feel a tad loose, like it could fall off under major movement. But that's really the only issue here. So that was my look at the Deluxe Batman figure set by Hot Toys from the 2022 Batman movie. Great figure, and another one in the running for me for top of the year. Let me know your thoughts on this one, and as always, thanks for watching, and if you are enjoying the content, please consider dropping a like, comment, or subscribing, and we'll touch base on the next video.